Today on
Doomed!
It is the final Doomed with Matt Binder of 2019. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. The year 2019 has come, and it is now about to be gone. We are broadcasting to you live on December 30th, New Year's Eve. The decade, the 2010s. Where did it all go? Where did it all go? Let me pull myself up on the camera here, folks. Today, it's just gonna be me. There we go. All right, the camera took a second to just me on the show today. No guest, because I thought, it's the last episode of the year. I have a few things I want to talk about with you guys. So let's do this. Let's just, me, you, and the other couple thousand people who listen to this show, whether it be on the podcast or on the YouTube live stream or the Periscope stream or the very, very few people who watch it on Twitch and Facebook. I'm talking very few people who watch it on those two mediums. But can't be popular everywhere. Folks, I want to start out this episode doing things in reverse. I want to thank all the patrons this year. I want to thank all of the patrons. Well, yeah, this year, I guess. I want to thank all of the patrons who gave to the show at the top of the program, and then at the end, when some people have already heard their interview and they're all filled with doomed for the day and they're tuning out. No, you got to hear the people who support this show and make it possible. Patreon.com/MattBinder. That's how you can support the show. And join this list of names: Abigail T, Adam Q, Alan B, Andrew C, Andrew H, Angela, RER, Ben, Benji, Bobby M, Brosnan, BZ, Champagne Kame, Christine H, Colin R, Connor R, Cyber Snowstorm, Dan, Dan K, Dan M. Those are 3 separate Dans, by the way. Dank Uger, Dave K, David Z, Dragon Slayer, Eugene B, Fraz K, FTW All Day, Future MD, George A, Greg D, Grim, Ian Curtis J, Jack D, Jameson Test, Janelle A, Jasmine H, Jeff K, Jeremy M, John B, John S, Jonathan B, Jonathan L, Joseph R, Joyce M, Justin S, Katie S, Katz, Kaushal, Laputin Machine. Is that really? All right. I skipped one. There we go. Lisa D. How could I skip one of the Lisas almost? Lisa H, Mark S, Matt Z, Max W, User Me, Melissa M, Mitch V, Michael B, Michael J, Michael M, Mr. Danks, Nicole A, Namdenet, Null Style, Odef, Qster, Ryan Left Is Best, Scott R, Sean H, Stephen R, Stephen S, Struggle Session, TM, Tamney G, Taylor M, Terrence R, Thaddeus A, This Is Not Pizza, Tina M, Todd K, Tom G, Tom M, Why That Tie Guy, Will P, Utopian, Zachary P, Zarin, and Zoe G. And I want to give a special shout out to one patron, actually, because I was looking over the patrons lately, and I was like, wow, there's a lot of people who've been here since the beginning, but there's one person who's given more than everybody else. I'm not going to say how much, but that person deserves an extra shout out. And that person is Champagne Kame. There's been, like I said, people who've been around at the Patreon just as long, but no one's given as much as Champagne Kame. So, buddy, truthfully, thank you for supporting the show and making it possible. Everybody who I just read, thank you. Now, as it's the last show of the year, the last show of the decade, I thought, we would do a first half of the show. I'll do a story that I wanted to talk about, and then I'll pose a question. Well, I'll pose the question now. What are you guys hoping to see in 2020? Obviously, with the theme of this show, I assume many people are going to, what the show's all about. I'm going to assume many people are going to comment to me and say Bernie Sanders winning the Democratic nomination. And I would probably put that number one on my list as well. But let me know in the comments if you're listening live. And then we'll go to the second half and we'll just have some fun with the patrons and the live streamers. You freebies, I'm going to have to leave you behind for this one. But you could always become a patron and catch that patron-only half. So let's talk about this YouTube study. I wrote about this study yesterday on Mashable. And you might have seen this study being talked about. You might have seen it got some attention on Twitter. You might have seen a lot of criticism of it, and rightfully so. So if you know anything about YouTube and the politics, specifically the politics niche, I guess, all your favorite political YouTubers, all your least favorite political YouTubers, you know that there's been a real problem with the YouTube recommendation algorithm. And to give YouTube credit, this year, 2019, they actually stepped it up and did some tweaks, did some fixes to the algorithm. Is it perfect yet? Absolutely not. Has a lot of the damage over the past, 10 years already been done? Yes. But this is the year they got around to really dealing with the worst of the recommendation algorithm problems. I mean, at the very beginning of the year, they announced specifically they were working to make sure the algorithm pushes out less conspiratorial content. And let me actually take a step back. For those of you who may not know what I'm talking about, basically, YouTube has always had this problem with the recommendation algorithm. I mean, they coded it and they created it, and in theory, you think this is how it should work and everything will be fine. Basically, the algorithm sees the video you're watching, and it says, if you like this video, let me pull up some other videos in my giant YouTube library in which people are literally uploading, millions upon millions of hours of YouTube content every hour of every day. Let me look through all this and, here's some more political content. You're looking at political content. You probably like more political content. You're going to want to watch more political content when this video is over. And when you watch a YouTube video, you see on the right-hand sidebar a bunch of YouTube videos that you could watch next. Now, the problem is that the algorithm worked a little bit too, I don't want to say well, but it had a habit of saying, for example, you're watching a Fox News clip. Why don't you check out some of these white supremacist YouTube channels? And, or here's some Alex Jones for you. And then before you know it, someone's watching Alex Jones and reading into all these conspiracy theories about how there's a pedophile ring in the basement of a pizzeria in DC. And you're falling in a rabbit hole is what it's called, of all these terrible conspiratorial YouTube channels. But, as someone who's I'm just viewing YouTube. I'm not all that political savvy. I'm just your average, human being who's not in these weird political bubbles, obsessively, compulsively like you and me, reading into this stuff. So I see a YouTube video and it's on YouTube. It must be telling me the truth. It must be at least someone's factual opinion based in facts and factual information. Of course, we now know that's not how this works. But so someone would find these channels and these videos, they'd like them, they'd subscribe to these channels, and before you know it, they're in this weird right-wing, white supremacist, conspiratorial bubble. And that's just one example. Obviously, one of the more worrisome examples. And so, first of all, critics would basically lay out to YouTube, listen, we get what the algorithm's supposed to do. And we get that you are an open platform, you're running your business this way, and you say, this stuff, as long as they're abiding by our terms and, not breaking our website rules, they can espouse whatever opinion they want. These were the rules, at least, before YouTube, again, tweaked them a little bit too. But then the critics posed the question, okay, this stuff's allowed to be on the platform. Why does your algorithm have to promote this stuff, though? Like, you can say that the insane person on the soapbox in the middle of a public square outside in the real world can scream his flat earth conspiracies all he wants and no one can stop him. But, the local news channels don't have to head down to where he is in the public square and set up give him a 2-hour live program every night and put it on their channels and promote it with commercials during primetime television. So YouTube basically said, we agree with you on this stuff after many years of critics pushing them on this. And in 2019, they finally said, listen, the conspiratorial stuff, we're going to make sure our algorithm is smart enough not to recommend that stuff. The 9/11 conspiracies, the flat earther stuff, the InfoWars style news stuff. We're going to allow it on our platform as long as they follow our rules, but we don't have to promote it via the algorithm. Thank you, YouTube. Yay. So, enough of the background. There's a lot more but that's the summary of the background. Fast forward to this study that came out this past week. So these two researchers, let me pull up their names. They're just independent data scientist Mark Ledwich and a UC Berkeley researcher Anna Zaitsev released this study that's starting to get some attention after Ledwich starts promoting it on Twitter. And I should say this as an addendum up front that should give you an idea about the study and where we're going with this here. The other researcher, not Ledwich, Anna Zaitsev, the UC Berkeley researcher, she has since come out and said, what Ledwich is saying on Twitter regarding what the study claims to have found, what he's saying on Twitter are the results of the study. I do not back what he's saying on Twitter. I simply back what's inside the data that I discovered inside the study. I'm not purporting that it says one thing or another. What I'm saying is this is what we found YouTube is pushing traffic to. So that should tell you enough. One of the researchers comes out and says, I need to back away from what my partner is saying on the internet. So let me read Ledwich's first couple of tweets. So Ledwich says, I work with Anna Zaitsev, Berkeley postdoc, to study YouTube recommendation radicalization. We painstakingly collected and grouped channels, 768 of them, and recommendations, 23 million of them, and found that the algo has a de-radicalizing influence. Now again, this flies in the face of everything I just said beforehand. Second tweet. It turns out the late 2019 algorithm actually destroys, and he puts this in all caps, conspiracy theorists, provocateurs, and white identitarians. Again, all those people I just said were the types that were being pushed on YouTube via the algorithm if someone just happened to watch one sort of Fox News video, and you went even at worst, it would push that stuff if you just watched a political video, period, that was sort of more apolitical, because again, the right wing and this white supremacist stuff and this conspiratorial stuff was sort of running rampant on YouTube for a long period of time. It was the type of stuff that was just being uploaded, I don't know, more so than anything else. It was a real problem. He continues. The algorithm helps partisans and hurts almost everyone else. So I looked into this study. It's a 15-page long study. It's not too long, but it's a lot of information in there. And again, I found what a lot of people were saying about the study. It's deeply flawed. Some people have said that they welcome more of this data about the study and more people should look into the study even though they don't agree with the study's findings. Other people have said, it's not so much wrong as it is just incorrect in its methodology. Again, I my opinion is, and I say this in my write-up of it, there are bits and pieces of data in this study that are interesting. And in fact, some of it backed up some things I've been finding about YouTube and its new algorithm, especially pertaining to mainstream news outlets. But the data this study finds, you almost, I don't want to say throw out, but you really can't use it in any sense of the word and take it seriously when they're pushing findings that the data just doesn't find and back up. So let me go through what I found were the major problems with this study. First of all, the number one problem to me is that second tweet that Ledwich actually posted. He says, it turns out the late 2019 algorithm destroys conspiracy theorists, provocateurs, white identitarians, blah, 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 blah. Let me highlight again the relevant portion of his tweet. It turns out the late 2019 algorithm, yes, that's correct. Like I just said, YouTube has done a lot to correct the algorithm in 2019. So if you're judging YouTube's entire history of radicalization by this study, which is what he's trying to say by saying it actually de-radicalizes, and later on in a really bizarre portion, let me get to this other tweet that really sets it all up here. The final tweet in his thread is, my article, which he basically posted an article summarizing his study, takes aim at the New York Times, in particular Kevin Roose, who have been on a myth-filled crusade versus social media. We should start questioning the authoritative status of outlets that have soiled themselves with agendas. First of all, a researcher saying this type of stuff there should be flags going up, red flags going up all over the place. Clearly, he has an agenda to prove others wrong with his study, which, a study sets out to find information and the data backs up whatever the findings just are backed up by the data, I should say. And, they may be proved right, they may be proved wrong. But this guy looks like he was trying to prove a very specific idea he had. And again, a little background here. The Kevin Roose article that bothers him so much, apparently, in the New York Times, is the one where Kevin Roose basically talked to someone who was radicalized by the YouTube algorithm and then sort of was de-radicalized via just basically his own, awakening, I guess you can say, through viewing videos from YouTubers on the left. And he came out and basically said, no, this is how, he talked to Roose and said, this is how I fell into the YouTube rabbit hole and became a far-right radical. So, this person, Ledwich, who conducted this study, could have just basically said, this is how the algorithm now works, and presented his findings like that, but he's not trying to do that. He's basically trying to say, everything you know about YouTube radicalization is wrong. This study flies in the face of everything that you've heard before. I found it de-radicalizes people. It's just not Correct. I mean, it's unfortunate because this could have been a good study, basically, if it was looking at, hey, this is how YouTube works now. This is the latest YouTube update. So then we get to this next part that really bothers me about the study. And I mentioned it in his framing of it, and that's the study is slanted. But I already said how he had an agenda. There's something in the study, though, the study's own methodology, that basically makes the whole thing flawed, even the data. Like, he could take this study and frame it in a certain way through his opinion and through an article that he posted on his Medium. But the study itself claims this, and it's based on data that's incorrect. To find out how YouTube is now promoting different content types via the recommendation algorithm, the study groups YouTube channels in basically different niches. And there's like the social justice niche. There's the anti-SJW niche, which contains people like, Sargon of Akkad and Tim Pool. I believe the social justice niche has like Peter Coffin in it. And now those are decent, decent groupings there. But then we get to this. There's a category called partisan left. And in this category is the Young Turks. I agree with that. The Young Turks are clearly a partisan left independent media organization. They say so. I mean, Cenk Uygur, the host, the main Young Turk, is currently running for a House seat as a leftist candidate. They don't hide it. They're quite open with it. Also in the partisan left category, which again helps once they get this data, they use these categories to determine how the YouTube algorithm is basically pushing people to different types of content. Along with the Young Turks in the partisan left category is CNN. CNN! I mean, come on. There's no one in their right state of mind who is not some hardcore right-wing partisan, who isn't a MAGA person, who isn't like a Ben Shapiro fan, who isn't like a Fox News obsessive, who thinks CNN is a partisan left news organization in the same category as the Young Turks. It's a joke. CNN is in a category along with like MSNBC and with the New York Times and the Washington Post as an establishment mainstream news outlet. They are they are major corporations or backed by major corporations or owned by major corporations. They are not the Young Turks. It's even wrong to put them with an independent, right-leaning outlet. Like, I don't know, the Daily Wire, Ben Shapiro's organization. It's just I want to say it's either just a total misunderstanding of the political sphere and the media sphere, or someone with a clear agenda. And I think I've told you where my opinion is based on one of the researchers' own opinionated breakdown of his findings. And let me explain to you, too, how the study itself defines partisan left. The group that CNN and Young Turks sit in together. Exclusively critical of Republicans. would agree with this statement. GOP policies are a threat to the well-being of the country. In what world do you put CNN in that category if that's your definition of partisan left? The organization employs more former Republican politicians and former Trump cabinet members and administration members than, frankly, I would say any other news organization. I would say they might even employ more than Fox, because Fox already has their established lineup of right-wing hosts and contributors. It was CNN who decided, hey, we got some all these fired Trump people. Let's hire them. We could get some ratings having these people on board. It's ludicrous. So the study's findings, I should point out, again, laid out by Ledwich, is that it destroys conspiracy theorists, provocateurs, and white identitarians, and helps partisans. Now, what I've seen with the new YouTube algorithm is that it's been pushing, and you can search any basic political keyword, like, 2020 Democratic primary debates, Bernie Sanders, Donald Trump, search any of those keywords, Joe Biden, and they will promote ABC, CBS, CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, any mainstream media outlet. It's, in my opinion, their way of correcting for the independent media channels like InfoWars and other conspiracy theory content that sometimes are more popular, I should say, than the mainstream media outlets on YouTube. So they overcorrected by having the algorithm push the mainstream media outlets over YouTubers. And of course, this hurts people like the Young Turks and the Majority Report and Secular Talk, Kyle Klinsky, and the Humanist Report, and the Rational National, and all your other favorite left-wing commentators who provide leftist analysis, again, based in facts, though. So that's my view of the algorithm now. But if you're putting CNN in the partisan left category, then of course your study is going to end up saying, hey, it helps partisans. Again, not true. And this brings me to the other major issue. Well, actually, there's one more sort of connected to the grouping of the channels. One of the groupings of the channels is called simply provocateurs. And in this grouping, well, first of all, let me explain to you the description of provocateur. And that's simply someone who takes any position looking for attention. Okay, so I guess like, a YouTube prankster. Like a Logan Paul. Again, they're not political commentators, him and his brother, but they're someone who does whatever just for attention. So if this is who's in this category, the political YouTuber equivalent of that, then fine. The provocateur category, however, for the study, is Milo Yiannopoulos and Steven Crowder. It's unbelievable that you would consider them just like bipartisan provocateurs. It's just blatantly false. Those are two far-right YouTubers. If you want to call them just like comedians or shit posters or trolls or whatever for your study, fine. But they're not just unbiased, bipartisan provocateurs. They're clearly right-wingers. And the fact that their YouTube channel, Steven Crowder, I think, has something like 4 or 5 million subscribers. He's one of the most popular political YouTubers, period. Even just not even talking about on the right. So if your study is just calling him provocateur, then it's not going to get everything, the analysis right. It's It's crazy that they would just, it's insanity. And then this is the final issue that I'm going to bring up here. Now, I saw other things here and there, and I've seen other critics bring up great points about this study. And we can talk about, we could do many shows on YouTube radicalization and the studies around it. And we will. I mean, the show has already done a number of them. But for this particular study, there was one other major flaw that just I was reading through it and I'm like, are you kidding me? And the thing is, this is even just like my analysis of looking at the results and saying like, oh, I'm reading through their methodology and this is why it's flawed. Like the other two reasons I gave you. Like, you could feign that, hey, I didn't know this about Crowder or Milo, or, I legitimately thought that for, looking at CNN content, I mean, it would be just bullshit and untrue, but the study can feign this sort of thing. But this is actually written in the study, this part. I'm going to read it to you verbatim from the study. One should note that the recommendations list provided to a user who has an account and who is logged into YouTube might differ from the list presented to this anonymous account. However, we do not believe that there is a drastic difference in the behavior of the algorithm. It would seem counterintuitive for YouTube to apply vastly different criteria for anonymous users and users who are logged into their accounts, especially considering how complex creating such a recommendation algorithm is in the first place. Hold on for 1 second. Hold on for me while I crack open a drink, because I'm going to need the energy that this soda gives me for this one. Are you kidding me? How do you just basically admit in your study as a researcher, a data scientist, conducting the study, saying straight up in the study, not my analysis, not anyone else's analysis of it, straight up this person is saying in the study that we do not fully understand how YouTube works. The recommendation list provided to a user who has an account and who is logged in should not show a drastic difference in the behavior of the recommendation algorithm from someone who has a fresh account or no account, not logged in at all. What? Do you not know how an algorithm, how algorithms basically work? Especially one called a recommendation algorithm. It uses what the user is viewing. It uses the search history of what a user has previously looked at and watched. The channels that logged in account is subscribed to formulate these recommendations, to formulate what a user sees when they open up the youtube.com homepage. Everything about YouTube and the videos it recommends are different for every single user when they're logged in, because it's based on their entire history. How do you possibly say we do not believe that there's a drastic difference in the behavior of the algorithm, which means the study we conducted using an anonymous account, and I should stress that what this means in this instance, and they didn't fully go into it, but I'm assuming is they created a fresh account completely, which is the equivalent to being a logged out user. And I'm assuming, being that they're highlighting the word anonymous, not just saying a fresh account, is that they created a new Google account, meaning YouTube didn't even have any information from the Google account that owns the YouTube account. Because if you're a YouTuber, you know this, or if you're on YouTube frequently, you know this. Your YouTube account is connected to your Google account. So if you're logged into your Gmail, your Google Drive, your Google Docs, whatever you use from Google Photos, when you go to youtube.com, you're already logged into your YouTube account. You don't have to re-log in on YouTube itself. You only have to do that if you're completely signed out of your Google account. So you have a completely fresh account, anonymous account, same as a logged out user. And you're conducting this study. And you're seeing just the mainstream media stuff being pushed, which I have told you from my own experience, my own looking into this, that the YouTube algorithm now promotes these accounts. And so you're doing this, and your study's based on this, and this is your findings, and you present this, and you say, hey, that's completely fine, doesn't matter, our methodology isn't flawed. This entire study can just be thrown out the window for this one reason. I mean, I brought up the flaws. I started to get, I wanted to give the study a real, a vigorous sort of look over, and I told you my analysis of how it just looks at the 2019 algorithm and how it wrongly groups the categories. And I saved this for the end because I really wanted to show you that I really tried to give this study the benefit of the doubt. But this is just the methodology is flawed from the get-go. There's no way to conduct this study by looking at the recommendations through one single brand new, never before used YouTube account with no identifying data whatsoever, completely anonymous to YouTube. It just doesn't work like that. I mean, if you're watching right now or you're listening to the podcast, go to youtube.com. Make sure you're signed into your Google account, your YouTube account. Go to youtube.com. Look at just your homepage. You'll probably see videos from the channels you subscribe. You'll probably see videos from channels that are like the channels you subscribe to. You'll probably see videos based on what you've previously watched. You may see some videos that are just trending on YouTube overall, but that's YouTube's one part of the homepage with a recommendation sidebar where they try to get you to watch something new that a lot of other people on YouTube are watching. But for the most part, it's completely based on your viewing habits and your channel subscription history. And now open a new browser window. Open it in incognito mode or whatever, private browsing mode, and go to youtube.com. Compare the two homepages. They will not look anything alike. Maybe the one thing that they'll have in common are those few videos that YouTube pushes to you that are trending on YouTube overall with all of its users. Otherwise, you're going to see completely different videos and channels. It's unbelievable that you would try to push this. And as one expert said on Twitter, Arvind Narayan, and I should get him on the show. Narayanan, I should say. Excuse me. I should get him on the show. Actually, I should reach out to him. He said, I spent about a year studying YouTube radicalization with several students. We dismissed simplistic research designs, like the one in the paper, by about week 2, and realized that the phenomenon results from the users, the algorithm, video creators adapting to each other. Let's not forget that the peddlers of extreme content adversarially navigate YouTube's algorithm, optimizing the clickbaitness of their YouTube thumbnails and titles, while reputable sources attempt to maintain some semblance of impartiality. None of this is modeled in the paper. After tussling with these complexities, my students and I ended up with nothing publishable because we realized there's no good way for external researchers to quantitatively study radicalization. I think YouTube can study it internally, but only in a very limited way. Basically, only YouTube has access to all the data needed to even do a study that even resembles an accurate one. And even then, he says, it's going to be limited because they can't run a study based on everyone's viewing habits. The recommendation algorithm is different for everyone. The only thing YouTube could do, which thankfully in 2019 they did, is say, hey, no matter what you watch, we can say this content and this content and this content shouldn't be pushed to people because it's just lies and disinformation and fake news and propaganda. So we shouldn't be in the business of saying, hey, you should watch this. And that's the only way they can filter that stuff out. And even then, it's a work in progress. Because like Narayan said, these bad faith actors find ways to game the system. So I just thought it was an interesting study to break down in the final episode of Doomed, because it sort of encapsulates what one of the main themes of this show has been throughout the whole year, looking into YouTube radicalization and online radicalization in general, but definitely the YouTube rabbit hole that turns basically disenfranchised young white men into white supremacists because they're basically fall through this rabbit hole and given a scapegoat. And we'll be talking about this sort of stuff a lot more in the year ahead. In fact, I don't want to give any names or information yet because we're finalizing the details, but probably in January, I'm going to have a really great guest who they themselves were in this rabbit hole of sorts. And they've been de-radicalized. And I think it's going to be a really great episode. I'm really looking forward to talking to this person. Folks, that is the end of the free show. That's the end of the free podcast, the last of the decade. Patreon.com/MattBinder. Support this show. You could also, if you're watching on YouTube, give a one-off donation via Super Chats. Just go to youtube.com/MattBinder. Click the little money sign that says show your support. I'll read your Super Chat up front, too. Support this show by going to iTunes, Google Play, subscribing at those places. Leave a review on iTunes, a star review, a written review. One person, jump in there, please. At least one person jump in there and give me one last written review of the year. I'd love to see it. And how else can you support this show? I have no idea anymore. I have no clue. I have no idea. What else could you do? Patreon, iTunes. Oh, subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/MattBinder. Follow me on Twitter at MattBinder. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook at those places. Follow me on TikTok too. I'm actually Matthew Binder. Matt spelled out full name Matthew Binder on TikTok. For some reason I can't. It doesn't look like there's a Matt Binder on TikTok. There's no user that comes up, but I can't get it for some reason. I don't know why. If you work for TikTok, help me get that username that no one else is using. Folks, have a happy new year. Thank you for all your support, whether you just subscribe to the podcast and listen to it, whether you just watch the live stream, whether you give to the Patreon, whether you do all of the above. The most important thing you do to support this show. Recommend it to your friends, your family, and tell your favorite podcasters, YouTubers, whatever your favorite online personalities are, Tell them about this show. Tell them you want me on their show. Tell them to come on my show. I'm really looking forward to 2020. We got an election year, a big election year. We got the most progressive candidate, Bernie Sanders, doing really well right now. We got a Donald Trump who I think we're all just ready to take down in 2020. It's going to be quite the year. Thank you for all your support. See you next week. It's the end of the year, but come on. Time is just a human construct, right? The world doesn't know that we're about to end 2019, 2020. The earth doesn't care about these numbers. See you next week, folks. Happy New Year. See you all next time on Doomed. Stick around for the patron half of the show, patrons and live streamers. All right, we're back. How you doing, guys? How you doing, patrons? How are ya? Where did my comment window go? What the? All right, let's go to the comments. Let's see. My dad's in the chat today. Hello, Pops. Zoe apparently was arguing with a libertarian before the stream went live. Cool. Zoe says, I got Pokemon Sword for Christmas and it's fun. Oh boy, I'm out of the loop on Pokemon, I gotta tell you. Sorry. Zoe says, I have a Pikachu named Marks and an Eevee named Engels. Cause why not? Renee with a super chat. Guess it's time to make it rain. Thank you, Renee. Zoe says it's snowing here. It's snowing a lot. Where do you live, Zoe? I mean, you don't have to give me exact coordinates. But if it's a major city, let me know that. And if it's you live in a small town, you just let me know, like, general, what major city you're by or what state even. Interested to know. I'm actually starving. I'm really hungry. Really hungry. But I'll eat something after the stream. We'll do about 30. We'll do 30 minutes. Give you guys a good, 45-minute patron-only half of the show. Renee says, Grim says, it rained and hailed and it was awful walking home from the den. Oh, okay, all right. Renee says, Zoe, you gotta join the Chile in Revolta Discord. You have a Discord, Renee? Renee with another super chat. Viva Tejas y Mexico. I hope I said that right. Dorian says, doomed. All caps Libra on Periscope says, I want to grow 2 inches taller, to be honest. Okay. Midnight Pizza Man says, I want to see Doom. Excuse me. I want to see Doom be bigger than the Michael Brooks show and Jimmy Dore. Thank you. And Midnight Pizzaman also says, I want to see Matt bald. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. Well, I mean, when I do go bald, you'll see it happen. That'll be very sad day. I'll be very sad. I think that would make me cry, actually. Now I'm down in the dumps just thinking about it. Thanks a lot, Midnight Pizzaman. All right. Zoe says, Matt has beautiful hair. Thank you. Grim says, I guess this is in response to my question that I posed at the top of the free show, the first half, as to what you hope to see in 2020 or do in 2020. Oh, this is for what you hope to see on this show in 2020. Cool. Yeah, I sort of meant whatever you wanted it to mean. Just what you want to see in general. But for this show, I guess Bernie, Right Wing Watching, Abby Martin, Carl Zah, Darryl Lamont, Jenkins of the One People's Project, and or other anti-fascista. Ryan says, the 2020 DNC convention ends on my birthday, so I'm hoping a Bernie nomination is my birthday present. That would be a wonderful birthday present. And that's not even my birthday, Ryan. I might even consider going since it's not too far away from me if it's looking good for Bernie, says Ryan. Dorian says, we might need to go if they do something fishy to Bernie. Zoe says, break into the DNC servers. Renee says, with a super chat again. Gee, what I want for 2020? Donald Trump and Piñera in a zoo in the Behold the Last Neoliberal section. So he says, unfortunately, there's way more than these two, right? And it seems the death of neoliberalism will mostly give way to fascism right now. Well, yeah. I'm such a pessimist. LOL, says Zoe. What is Renee talking about in Twitter war? Oh, his Twitter drama. Renee, listen, buddy. All right. I don't want anyone to go look into this. Renee, please cut it out. I don't want to get into the personal drama stuff. Just leave. There's been in a very general summarization. There's a huge Twitter thread right now with @replies to a total of 50 people in each tweet. Because Renee is having some beef with some other online leftists, some of which are fans of this show, and I consider people who've been on this show friends of mine. I consider them friends, at the very least acquaintances. Let's be nice to everybody. Come on. If you don't like each other, fine, but you don't have to. Just don't talk to each other. Come on. Leave everybody alone. You know, I want everyone to be happy. I'm a big fan of all the people who are the regulars in this chat. You know, Kennedy, Misha, Chi, Renee, Zoe, Grim, Ryan, Dorian. I know there's a few more regulars I'm forgetting, but you guys too. Let's all just, if you don't like someone for some reason or another, just leave them alone. Let's all be nice. Let's make that our 2020. That's all. We gotta save it up for Bernie and the right wing in 2020. For Bernie, I mean we have to save it up to defend Bernie and go on the offense for Bernie. And what I mean by the right wing is we have to save it for using the attacks on the right and the neoliberals and the establishment and the corporatists and the conspiracy theorists and the other weirdos, the K-Hive. Come on. The left needs to be united. More so than ever right now. Progressives, leftists, anarchists, socialists, democratic socialists, communists, no libertarians of any sort, no anarcho-libertarians, no whatever weird libertarian sects. No, we're not talking about you, not you, not you. The left needs to be united. I'll even accept some of the confused political weirdos in the Yang Gang. We could bring them in. Even the Warren people. Because we will need them. We will need the Warren people. The ones who aren't the really weird, sizable portion of her base that is trying to decide between her and Pete Buttigieg. The other Warren people. The Warren progressives. We'll bring them in too. Obviously. We all gotta unite. Some of the Tulsi people too. Not the weirdos in the Tulsi group. And I don't even know if we want to accept Tulsi anymore, but Renee says, look me up on the Surfs channel. What? Huh? What? What are you talking about, Renee? Zoe, okay, can we keep it off here, but I need gossip, so someone PM me on Discord. Oh, boy. Everyone, Grim says, keep it off Doomed, Renee. Absolutely, exactly. Renee, Curvus Politicos is on Twitch? That's, Right, alright. Dorian says, my awful YouTube recommendations will be happy to know all these racist conspiracy theorists they keep shoving in my face are fake. Philadelphia fan says, in quotations, a researcher, in quotations, looking for data to prove his agenda. Absolutely. Dorian says, the researchers' intentions aren't relevant if their methods are sound. Right, I'll agree with that, but then I think I proved that their methods weren't sound. Zoe, you waited for 20 minutes for the stream started without realizing we were... What happened? Did the YouTube page just not update for you? That's weird. Go back and watch it when we're done here. Well, I didn't do anything wrong, but I'm sorry about that anyway. Dynacat says, Doomed is going to be a more appropriate name than you bargained for if I read things right. I usually do, unfortunately. Dino, why are you coming in here and doing this to me? But yeah, I mean, that's why I named the show this. Well, actually, I recently came across a name that I really like. And I'm thinking about changing the name of the show. I know, I've already built up this name in the show. But I really like this name. And I grabbed the name because it's really good. And I'm thinking about what to do with it. Maybe Doomed will be the name of the podcast that lives under the broader network of because this name is really good. I like it. And it fits what we talk about on this show. And it's actually a lot better than Doomed, I think. But Doomed also really fits for the reasons that Dinah brought up as well. And for the reasons why I said I named the show Doomed, which is that we cover the right and how everything's doomed on this show. And it's sort of tongue-in-cheek. Zoe joking about how CNN is partisan left, saying it stands for the Communist News Network. Zoe also says both sides are equal. Smug face. Ecoplex Media says your AV sync is off. I think your audio is like 100 milliseconds early. I'm looking on the YouTube feed and I don't see that. I can't tell. I just looked after you said that. Maybe it's the live stream. Like by the time it gets to you, it's a little bit. I don't know. But on my end, I'm looking. I don't mean I'm looking at the window of the program I'm streaming from. I mean I'm looking at the YouTube channel page, like the YouTube video page right here in front of me. I don't know. Thank you for the heads up, though. I'll definitely look into it. Weird. All right, let's go back to the comments. I can't find the comment. Okay, here we go. Lawn Chair Media Guy says the same guy, talking about the researcher, probably wrote the top 10 rock songs for the decade at Billboard. Oh, yeah, we're on the fun half of the show, so let's have... Oh, I can't really call it the fun half. The patron half of the show. So let's have some fun. This is... Where is it? Oh, this is the... I can't believe this list. The Billboard top rock songs of the decade. Believer by Imagine Dragons. That's number 1. 2. Thunder by Imagine Dragons. 3. Radioactive by Imagine Dragons. 4. High Hopes by Panic at the Disco, aka the Pete Buttigieg theme song. 5. Ho Hey by the Lumineers. 6. Heathens by 21 Pilots. 7. Shut Up and Dance by Walk the Moon. 8. Feel It Still by Portugal, The Man. 9. Ride by 21 Pilots. 10. Stressed Out by 21 Pilots. What a shit list. My God. How any of that is even rock. I mean... If there's any music genre that's just dead. I mean, Christ. Back to the comments. Dorian says, this show streams on Twitch? Yeah, Twitch, Periscope, which is basically on Twitter, on my Facebook page, and on YouTube. In a perfect world, I'm trying to build up the YouTube more than anything, but I want people to be able to catch it wherever they'd like, so I'm not going to... Ryan says, saying there's no difference between an anonymous and a logged in account's recommendations on YouTube is Claire Lemon dumb. That's the Quillette founder. Dorian says, lazy or dishonest. Zoe says, I just checked the recommendations on this video on a private window, and they are wildly different. Absolutely right. See? Echoplex says Claire is the editor-in-chief of Skull Measuring Weekly. Zoe says there was tons of MSNBC, Fox, CNN, and the trending stuff. Exactly what I said. Amazing. Right again. No, but thanks, Zoe, for checking that. When you're logged in, Zoe says, on her account, she sees Doomed, The Michael Brooks Show, and MR in her recommendations. Debunked a study in a few keystrokes. LOL. Grim says, dude committed fraud. Case closed. Next. Who committed fraud? What did I miss here? Did I miss reading something? Dorian says, I just found out Doomed is live on Twitch too. Hopefully it draws some new folks in. And Dorian just followed me on Twitch. Echo says, he gets more views than I do? Oh, well, it's not that much though. And not saying you don't get much. Yeah, well, okay, all right, whatever. But Echo says that he interviewed Matt, that's me, about MRAs and the alt-right a while back. You can find it on our website. Do check it out. My interview with Echoplex Media about MRAs and the alt-right. I believe that was either last year, 2018, or the beginning of this year. I can't remember now. Jeez, time just flies. Dorian says the new decade starts in 2021, and I'm giving Matt 2 views like a good comrade. No, it doesn't. I don't get people who say that. The new decade begins in 2021. No, it doesn't. You say the 2010s and the 2020. Like, when you say the 80s, that's 80 to 89. Doesn't make any sense. How would it be new decade starts in... Come on. People are going to say there wasn't a year 0, but there's not 2020 years either. This is just... There was years before year AD1. So he says, don't be a pedentrist. Okay, all right. Yeah, Dorian. The Blind Seer says, only the last of the decade if Binder doesn't plan to stream next year. Yeah, the Blind Seer, don't be a pedantrist. Rad Dad Redemption with the super chat. Matt, what was your favorite Owen Hart match? Ooh. I mean, there's the classic with his brother Brett. But I really don't know of one favorite for Owen Hart. It's honestly been a long time since I've seen an Owen Hart match. I really enjoyed his tag team with Jeff Jarrett. I thought they were a great team. God, favorite match. The Austin match is a classic too, where he breaks Austin's neck for real. He had a lot of great matches tag teaming with the British Bulldog against a number of teams, but for some reason I'm remembering specific matches with him and Bulldog against Cactus Jack and Chainsaw Charlie, aka Terry Funk. For some reason those matches are popping in my mind. I don't remember if they were particularly good, but they were certainly memorable for some reason. Or maybe it was with Dude Love versus Dude Love, and I can't remember now. It's been too long. Dorian says, Matt, go on Nightmare Tonight with David Stockdale. I'm actually not familiar with that. I will look into that. Can I just tell you guys that I attempted to have a show, one last show of the year, with someone to break down the UK election results with me. And it was insanely hard. I've never had this trouble before. Finding someone. I finally did come up with a few names who were down, but they couldn't make the schedule work because of the holidays. But it was insanely hard to find someone. I guess because of the time difference. And also the overall, it seemed like a lot of them were just depressed by the results. But I think it's still worthy to break down, and I want to do that. But yeah. Uh, why are you guys talking about Canada now? I'm not talking about Canada. Oh wait, where you're from? Oh, you're from Canada, Zoe? You're from the province of Quebec. Or Montreal, Canada. Which one? I don't even know what you're talking about. Is Montreal, Quebec? Right, Montreal, Quebec, Canada. Right. I'm not reading this. This is me. You're hearing me vocally. You're hearing my brain's method of thinking this stuff through. Vocally. Renee says Montserrat is commenting on American politics on Twitch right now. I gotta have her back on. Dave If says, hey, Matt, on Periscope. Rorka says 2020 is going to be crazy on Periscope. Dave If still says, leave Trump alone. Trump trolls. Welcome. Midnight Pizza Man with the super chat. Matt, have some dollar pizza. Don't think about your hair. Oh, thank you, Pizza Man. Dorian says, Matt, what are your thoughts on what Zoe just said? That neoliberalism will mostly give way to fascism. Agree or disagree? I mean, what are we seeing right now? All right. I mean, happened in the U.S. It's been happening more and more in the U.K. I mean, it wasn't neoliberalism to fascism in Brazil, but it's fascism in Brazil. Look at Chile, right, Renee? Another Brazil-like example where it wasn't neoliberalism to fascism, but we ended up on fascism anyway. Look at Bolivia. I mean, but in the Bolivian example, actually, it is neoliberalism. Because it wasn't like Morales lost an election. It was a coup. So yeah, I guess Brazil really is the only. But then again, I mean, Lula was jailed, so he couldn't run. So I mean, the neoliberals and the conservatives sometimes even joining forces, both lead to fascism. I agree. Obviously. But just to answer your question straight up. I also enjoy the username RadDadRedemption. Dorian. It's very good, RadDad. RadDad says, yes, someone else was using Politics Understander on Twitter, and this was shockingly wide open. Dorian says, I feel this list is really selling Imagine Dragons short. RadDad says, wow, we stand Portugal the Man. Yeah, the one sort of good band on the list, right? I mean, there's a few songs on the list that are catchy, but I wouldn't call them the top rock songs of the decade. Christ. My God. Oh, can we talk about really quick? I don't want to. We'll do something more about this with a guest because it's fun. It's going to be a fun one to talk about with other people. But can we talk about? We'll talk about a specific event. So today, Bernie Sanders, the campaign, released a medical update from 3 doctors: his primary physician and 2 cardiologists. And it basically runs through his health. His primary physician runs through, his blood pressure, his weight, his level of activity, the basics that you would do from the information they would take at an annual checkup, I guess. And then also following up from his October heart attack. And again, the letters go through his numbers. I believe it was like his blood pressure, I want to say BMI, but I could be wrong. Gave stats. It wasn't just like, my patient is doing well. It quantified them and put them in a percentile of people his age and who have gone through similar issues. And then the cardiologists ran through their assessment of how he's doing after the stent was put in. And they released this stuff. And you have the insane Never Bernie people on Twitter, after dying, constantly asking, I thought he was going to release his medical history by the end of the year. Over and over again saying this stuff. Just like the tax returns, which they still asked for, by the way, even though Sanders released 10 years worth of tax returns in April. Shows you how much they cared about it. They just use it to attack him on Twitter without ever looking to see if he ever actually released them, which he did. So they see this stuff, and they see that it's 3 separate letters from 3 separate medical doctors. They don't actually look at the letters. They just screenshot the Bernie Sanders campaign press release talking about the letters and linking to them, but again, not actually screenshotting or linking to the letters themselves, and saying this is all they released, the letters, just like Trump. This is Trumpian. First of all, the act of getting a doctor's letter running through how you're doing medically is Trumpian. I guess anyone who's ever attended school and was out sick and had to come back with a doctor's note is now Donald Trump, apparently. But second of all, Trump's letter that he put out was from his personal doctor, who himself was suspect and a weirdo, if you guys remember, who later came out and said that Trump dictated what to say on the letter. And it said things like, Trump is the best shape of any person on the face of the earth, or something ridiculous like that. And that's it. These 3 letters from Sanders are, first of all, 3 separate letters corroborating each other from 3 separate medical doctors. One is from the congressional physician. So I guess you're not going to trust what this doctor says about any of the Congress people that assess any of the senators or House members. And also, again, like I mentioned, his primary doctor runs through his medical record stats, but in the letter and in layman terms. You think the doctor is lying about his medical records, the actual numbers, his weight, his height, his blood pressure? You think he's lying about that? I mean, what is this? Come on. This is just another never Bernie bullshit. They don't actually care about him releasing his medical history. And if he did, they'd find something to attack about it anyway. Or they would pretend he never released it. They want the medical records themselves. Are you a medical doctor? You going to understand all the random stuff on there? Or do you want the medical doctor to actually explain to you what the medical records mean? Oh, we'll talk more about it's mostly the K-Hive people. Oh my God. Oh boy. Oh brother. They are so pissed that Kamala dropped out and they have no one else to go to, so they're focusing up all their free time on just attacking Bernie, who they think is the reason Kamala failed. And if you think that, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Rad Dad Redemption says trash future people probably would have done it. That's a good idea. I didn't think of reaching out to them. I have to tell you, it's not so much that people turn me down. It's that people just weren't just like available for it. Or just never replied. Like they were in some sort of deep... there were some people I wanted on who literally left Twitter after the election results. In the UK. Renee says Novara Media. Some of the people I was talking to were from Novara Media, who I was not able to finalize anything with, even though I was talking with them and we were going to do something. I'll definitely have to touch base with them again because I'd love to have someone from Novara on. I'd love to have multiple people from Novara on. Zoe says this is the second show in which Matt has exclaimed, "You're from Canada, Zoe?" Laughing my ass off. You're from Canada, Zoe? I'll tell you something, Zoe. I'm not going to remember. So get used to it. In a few weeks, you'll be saying, this is the 6th show Matt said this. God's sakes, man. Sorry, Zoe. Dinah says Britain has no legitimate media anymore. Renee says Michael Moore's dumping a lot of content on his Rumble channel. What's that? What's the Rumble channel? I guess the Michael Moore's channel. Dinah says, I've been listening to Rumble just now and thought about mentioning it. So he says places like Brazil and Bolivia had neoliberal actors pushing in fascist leaders. There we go. Exactly. Thank you for, right. Renee follows it up with evangelical colonialist racism. But Janice Daza, she might be crazy, but she's our first female president. Yay. Oh, right. That's what Janice said, right? Janice, I should say, right. Man, she met her, Agnes. Janice met with Agnes and took a photo with her. Unbelievable. After we had that debate on the show. Zoe says, we've seen it since fascism's inception, by the way. Liberals and conservatives will give way to fascism if the threat of the left is important enough. Dinah says, I can see an argument that fascism is an inevitable reaction to neoliberalism, but that's as far as I'll go. So he says, I think the inevitability is socialism or barbarism. Rad Dad says, Bernie has better blood pressure at 78 than I have at 35. Oh, LMAO. Right. I got to check out what my blood pressure is, but you know what? Wouldn't surprise me either. If Bernie's better than mine. So he says, those in power prefer fascism. Rad Dad says, oh man, Sirota just dunked on Neera Tanden. I gotta see this. Ooh. So David Sirota tweets, Dear fellow Democrats, Joe Biden has been repeatedly trying to tell us something. When someone tries this hard to make clear exactly who they are and what their values are, we should listen. And it's screenshots to headlines such as Joe Biden says he would consider a Republican for his running mate. Joe Biden defends praise for embattled Republican during midterms. Joe Biden's paid speech buoyed the GOP in the Midwest. Joe Biden, America needs the Republican Party. Neera quote tweets that Sirota tweet with fellow what? First of all, David Sirota is a Democrat. And then David Sirota replies, quote tweeting Neera Tanden's fellow what? With his own fellow people who don't proudly partner with the GOP's leading think tank. And he includes a screenshot from the Center for American Progress's website with a press release that says release. CAP and AEI. Oh, I just lost the tweet. CAP and AEI team up. For those who aren't familiar, AEI is the American Enterprise Institute, which is a right-wing think tank. That is a good burn. BERN. David Sirota. Very good burn. I enjoy that burn. Right. Feeling the burn on that one. I mean, Nira should be. Nira. God. Nira. That was worth taking the time out to take a look at. Thank you for the heads up. Rad Dad. Renee, in replies to Zoe talking about fascism, says, a meme of a cartoon dog in a hat drinking tea while his house is on fire, right? Zoe says, to quote the ever great Ian Dansky of Innuendo Studio, if you want to defeat fascism, move left. Frank says, Kamala failed because she's a cop. Zoe, I mean, if Bernie wasn't there to offer a real alternative, Kamala might still be there. So we should be thanking him. Well, I don't know if she'll still be there. There's other candidates still in the race. Zoe says Navarro is dope. Dorian promises Zoe that if I don't say, whoa, you're from Canada next week, he will. Renee says Matt doesn't have blood in his veins. It's Red Bull. Token Reformed Libertarian says, oh, hey, I caught the stream live. Well, hello, Token Reformed Libertarian, but I'm about to end the stream, actually. The show is coming to an end. But good to have you, and I hope to have you on the live stream in later shows, too. In later streams. Ugh. I'm hungry, guys. I gotta go eat. Precarious Proletariat joining us as well with the final stream of the decade. Oh, come on, Dank Uger. Decade doesn't start till 2021. No, it doesn't. It starts now, okay? And Rad Dad points out that AEI is funded by the Kochs primarily. What's CAP, says Zoe. That's the Center for American Progress. Dorian says, didn't CAP used to be good at one point, like 10 to 12 years ago? Well, they ran Think Progress. And Think Progress was good. And then they closed Think Progress instead of putting more money towards Think Progress. Because Think Progress was the good part of what they were doing. Rad Dad says, Nina Turner just replied to someone posting your Bernie isn't a Democrat video too. Wait, what? Nina just saw my video. Where? Oh, look at that. She retweeted my video. Although it's in someone else's tweet. That's fine. Because it's linked to my account. That's cool. Ah, she went hello to my video. I like that. Cool. All right. Nice. Token Reform Libertarian says, Matt, what's your sense of Nick Fuentes and America First in 2020? Ooh, that's one we're going to have to save for a full episode, like an interview. I'm going to get someone on to talk about that. I do think the rift on the far right now is very interesting to watch. I don't know how. It's unclear to me whether that's just going to be like a inter right fight, and if it will hit outside of that. Like, will that have any play outside of just interrupting Turning Point USA events and dunking on Ben Shapiro as he's walking by the street? I don't know. I can't tell yet. Because the right hasn't really gone full-blown election mode yet, to be quite honest with you. I mean, they don't have a primary to run, pretty much. I mean, there will technically be people running, but Trump is going to be the Republican nominee. He's the president. He's the incumbent. We will do an episode on America First and Fuentes and the inter-right fight. Precarious says, Happy New Year, Matt. LOL, of course I tuned in late into the stream. Happy New Year. Thank you. Thank you. Yep, Thomas is online, posted that video of mine, and he follows me, and it's a good and cool left Twitter account. Yep. I do got to talk to Brie Brie, says Renee. Renee says I should talk to Brie Brie. Yes, definitely. Dank says I came in late because I was watching Don't Fuck with Cats. What's that? Zoe says get Nick Fuentes on. You know what? Maybe I would. Maybe I would. I have to think about that one. If that's even a possibility. That's one of the rare ones I have to consider. You know how I'm always open to talking to anybody. But there are some, maybe though. Token says, my worry is that Fuentes' ideas are mainstream except the JQ Spencer was too much of a fop. Jude says, something I always try to ask political commentators like yourself is, how do you stay in the know? What's your reading regimen like? Lots of online stuff, curated Twitter posts? It's, I don't even really think about it anymore because sort of just get in the habit of seeing these same. Obviously I add new media as it comes up, and I try to keep on tabs on new names, but basically just look through my who I follow on Twitter. For podcasts and YouTube, just basically look at. You go to iTunes, go to the Doomed page on iTunes, and iTunes will show you what other podcasts people who also listen to Doomed listen to. And you can find a lot of similar commentators that way. In terms of like the very online stuff, like when I cover my beat, like with the right and with, tech and politics, and the intersection of those two, and like online radicalization, and the weird dark web areas of the internet, and how YouTube radicalizes, and Facebook and Twitter, that stuff. And just sort of like I'm just very into that stuff, and I have been for years, so I'm just in the right groups, in the right, like I know where to look on Reddit to find not just what's going on Reddit, but. And it's not that there's the same like things I subscribe to. There's a lot of searching, to be honest with you. Just knowing what keyword combinations to search for stuff. I have an RSS feed with a bunch of different outlets. It's very helpful to follow independent media news organizations to begin with. I'll put something together. In fact, it's funny you bring it up. Because I mentioned the last time that I thought that someone needs to build like a directory of independent left-leaning media organizations, whether it's like full-blown news outlets, like, I don't know, like The Intercept or Jacobin, or if it's just like, podcasts or YouTubers, or even just good Twitter accounts or good Reddit subreddits, or good, I don't know, even like young TikTokers who are doing cool leftist video memes. And I bought a domain for that, and I should set something up, and you could all contribute, and we could have just this one single spot where you'll know if you're looking for a new, and not even just new in terms of like they're doing this new, like new to you, left-leaning commentator or media outlet. You could find it easily on this site. But thanks for the question, Jude. That's definitely something I should get on, to be honest. I think would be helpful for everybody. Troglodyte says it's a doc on a serial killer from Canada. It's a Netflix documentary called Don't Fuck with Cats. I gotta check it out. Token says I wouldn't platform him. Talking about Nick Fuentes. I've had this conversation on this show before, and I think this show is not a platform for these guys. A, because of how I would approach it. And B, this is a very, compared to larger shows, it's not that big of a show. It's a platform. Honestly, if anything, him coming on the show would probably platform me. But there would have to be something to have him on for. If it's just to have him on for the sake of having him on, I wouldn't do that. Like with Janice, I had her on because I wanted to discuss her role in platforming Áñez, who took over after Morales, and the organizations she works with, who pushed for a coup. There was a point to that. I wasn't just having her on for the sake of having her on. It's the same with Caitlin Bennett, the Kent State gun girl, when I had her on. She had interesting insider information on Turning Point USA. I got that, to have an interesting show just on that. And then I had her on. I was going to debate her, and we had a debate. So there would need to be a reason to have him on. I wouldn't just have him on because, hey, look, I got Nick Fuentes on. We're going to argue for the hell of it. It's got to be something. There's got to be something to peg it on. Lord Arion says, Nick Fuentes really does not care for Jews. Right, well. Toka says, no, he doesn't like us. No, yeah. Krim says, and we do not care for Nick right back. Right. Zoe says, I like when Creationist Cat makes fun of Fuentes. Grim says, Dear Zachary is the best true crime documentary. Rad Dad says, Bernie has pulled in donations from every state but Wyoming in the past hour. Where do you see this? Interesting. Misha says there's breadtube.tv, but it's just YouTube channels. Oh, I see that. Yeah, it's kind of, and I'm not listed there. Am I? Yeah, I'm not. What the hell? Yeah, but my idea is beyond just YouTube channels. It's sort of limited too. I mean, it's good for what it is. I'm going to bookmark this. I think it's very helpful. But yeah, I want to do a full-blown, every medium, like sort of like the directory for the left on the internet. I'm not even looking for it to be a site where people spend a lot of time on. I mean, you just go and search for something for other media organizations, and the site just shows you them, and you get off this site and go check out whatever this other outlet is. Jude says it's not platforming if you're going to not treat them with kid gloves the way Ruben does. Right. If you're a regular listener of this show, you know when I have a right winger on, it's not like that at all. I know exactly how to go about handling them. But I do think there would need to be something to peg someone like Nick Fuentes on to have a discussion about. I don't want to just have him on to talk about how he's a fascist or a racist or an anti-Semite. There's got to be something specific. Token says, right, I'm not sure what Nick could do or add. So he says, Ruben definitely platforms. Dank says, can't believe that Matt counter-programmed the Bobby Lashley-Lana wedding. Don't spoil the WWE Raw, tonight's WWE Raw for me. Misha says, you aren't? What the hell? Talking about me not being on bread2.tv. I am not. Right. Dorian says, someone's getting canceled over this. Right. Zoe says, hey, the stream didn't crash. Right. And you know what? Before it does, that was the final comment of the stream. Folks, patrons, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Thank you for... Oh, wait. Dank says, I saw Dear Zachary. That's a very sad documentary. All right, I'll have to check that one out. Folks, thank you so much, patrons, for literally everything you do for this show. Whether it's just jumping in the live stream and providing me with material to talk about when we're just in this fun half, the second half of the show. Financial support via Patreon or the YouTube super chats. It really does mean a lot. And I would not be able to do this show, the free half or the patron half, if you were not a patron at patreon.com/MattBinder. Just wouldn't be able to do it. And I look forward to a 2020 filled with good news for not just the show and its growth, but for our politics, for our primaries, for our health, for our lives, for your family and friends, and just hope everyone has a good new year, 2020. Hope at the end of 2020 we are celebrating a President Bernie Sanders. Hell, even a President Elizabeth Warren would be preferable to anything else other than Bernie. I really, truly hope we're not saddled with 4 more years of Trump. I don't know if we'll be able to take it. I don't know if the Supreme Court will be able to take it. But let's not leave on a sad, doomed note. Let me tell you guys a few goodbyes here from the stream to end it, because I don't want to end on that. I wasn't planning on going that direction, and it just ended up going that direction. Dorian, good stream, Matt. Token, see you in 2020. Dorian on Twitch says, true. Dorian on YouTube, it was a very good stream. See y'all next year, says Misha. Why is Dorian talking to himself, says Zoe. Dank says 2020 going to be the best year. Let's go, Bernie. Token says, hell, please just no Trump. We won't last, right? Right, but let's end with that one. Misha says, we're gonna win. Ladies and gentlemen, see you all next year on Doomed.